Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Paranormal Chat with Jen and Violet. This evening, we'll have Adam and Sonia Bogart of Eureka Paranormal, all the way from the West Coast in Eureka, Nevada.
Hi.
Hi, everybody.
Hi, Adam. Hi, Sonia.
Hello.
Welcome. How are you doing tonight?
We're doing good.
So let's just dive right in. Just tell us a little bit about yourself. We'll have some get to know you questions. And whoever would like to talk, you can both talk or each talk. Give your different stories. So go ahead and tell us about yourselves.
Okay. My name's Adam Bogart. As far as like myself, I've been investigating. I guess about 3 years now. So I'm still fairly new to it, but we're learning lots, and we enjoy the heck out of this town. Sonia?
I'm Sonia Bogart. I've been interested in the paranormal for many, many, many years. Not always doing anything about it, but I've used to be a part of a group in high school called the Ghost Towners, and that just kind of opened my eyes to all our little ghost towns in Nevada, and I love to explore them.
Fabulous. I like that you started when you were in high school. I like that idea. We never had anything like that when I was in school. Of course, I grew up in a really small town.
Yeah. We had a great history teacher who was same thing, just loved the ghost towns, loved the history of the West. And it was a shame when he retired and somebody else didn't take that over, because it was a wonderful group to be a part of.
I think that's just absolutely fabulous. They did that in school. I noticed that more colleges are also starting to invite paranormal investigators in to teach classes on it as well.
Yeah, I think that is so neat. And the fact that anybody can go and actually have somebody, go over how the equipment works, and that I think kudos for that. I think that's awesome. They do that.
I do too.
TMCC out in Reno has several courses.
Oh, do they?
Mm-hmm.
There's a college in Chicago that does, and then here in Indiana, years ago, I used to live in Fort Wayne, and there was someone that taught a class there. And at Ball State University, they have a ghost hunting group there. And then in Michigan, I don't remember which college it is, they actually have, it's called whichever college it is, Ghost Hunters. So I think that's really interesting.
And we're slowly moving forward into becoming more of an accepted science, I think. One
day, hopefully. Probably be long gone. I'll be long gone, and I'll be haunting the people by the time they decide to make it a real science. I'll be like, I told you so. So, what age did you realize the paranormal existed?
You want to go first?
For me, I think going back on it, I go back and forth thinking about this, but when I was little, I used to always see things in my windows, always that, and that something was in my closet or under my bed. And my sister actually used to make me a spray, my little monster spray with Listerine, and so that it would keep the monsters away. So I always had that, when I was little, so I wouldn't be afraid of whatever I saw. So I'm thinking I was young, experiencing, having the experience, but then as you get older, you kind of forget about those thoughts. And then I had an experience after my grandfather died. My family was moving, and I was about 16 years old, and I was sitting in front of a mirror singing to myself with headphones on, and I had a lighted figure standing behind me, and I thought it was the light playing tricks on me, but I think it was a figure. And I went into my parents' room and I told them about it, and they were like, "No, it's probably Grandpa saying hi. How you doing?" He's watching you sing.
I I had an experience with my grandfather after he passed away too. So I truly believe he was there with you.
Yeah, it's just, and after my mom and dad have both passed on, and um, there was a time when my daughter was little, and my daughter I named after my mom, and she would always giggle like somebody was looking out, on the changing table. She would always have the fits of giggles, like somebody was, you know, playing peekaboo with her or something. And I always was like, "Mom, is that you? Are you looking up for us?"
I've had the same thing with all three of my kids too.
So
It's nice to know that they're there watching out and come back to see them.
exactly.
And I really like that your sister made the monster spray.
Yeah, I wrote an essay about that in high school, and they sent it off to I never won anything, but I remember they liked the story so good they sent it off to some essay contest. But yeah, I was always such a I had a very good big sister. She always took good care of me.
I think that's great to do that. What about you, Adam? At what age did you know the paranormal existed?
I was a very late bloomer. I was laughing at y'all. Up to about 3.5 years ago. I planned kind of a romance. I knew she was into it, so we got a recorder, and I planned a, night at the Silver Queen, which is right up from the Washoe Club. Most people know about it or have heard about it in Virginia City.
Uh-huh.
And we were playing with the recorder and didn't realize it at all, but we caught an EVP that was phenomenal. And then during the night, I guess I woke up crying and I had cigar burns. Nobody was smoking in the room. And I've been chasing it ever since, chasing answers.
It's amazing when you actually find out it's real. You're like, did I really see that? Maybe, maybe not. And then when it clicks, it's one of the most amazing things you'd ever experience.
It was definitely a life changer because, that's all we do now. Investigate.
Yeah, that's pretty much my hobby too. And outside of kids and work and family, I'm right there with you.
We even bring our kids now.
How old are your kids?
Jillian is going to be 14 next month, and we have twin boys, Darren and Jonathan, and they're going to be 12 in June.
That's great. My oldest, once in a while, he's 14 as well, and once in a while he'll ghost hunt. And sometimes he's more into the cryptid side. My daughter loves to do it. She's 10 and she's been doing it for years. And I think it's great that you get your kids involved in it. And if they grow up that way, they really don't fear a whole lot, I don't think, of the unknown.
And we really like it for that reason. And out here in Eureka, there's a lot of the youth that go with us too, and we kind of coach them along and show them how to research the properties and investigation techniques and do's and don'ts and all that fun stuff.
I like that you're educating them as well. I really do. I give you props for that.
Well, it beats the way we started, guessing and does this work? Does that work? All that fun stuff.
I love that the kids are so curious and they have questions and they want to know things. And I love that their minds are just so curious about it. They're open to it. They're not closed-minded.
I like that too. And I think it reflects the parents as well. If the parents are closed minded, then the kids tend to be. And if the parents are more open minded, the kids will be as well.
Absolutely.
And when you take your kids on the investigations, do you notice you get more activity in certain areas?
Oh yes, it's a dramatic change. There's a lot of passed away children in Eureka, so they'll actually get to a point where they'll play games with them. With this flashlights, they'll turn on the flashlights and shut them off, and it's pretty intense.
It can be. One of my team members is 20, so she's still very young. And she was with us on Saturday, and the kids would not leave her alone. We had a lot of activity. And I told her, I said, you're young, they're drawn to you.
Yep.
And when an adult would speak to them, they really wouldn't talk to us. They would stick with her.
Mm-hmm.
So I agree. It's completely different when the kid's younger. I shouldn't say she's a kid. She's a younger person. But when the younger group is around, they tend to rotate and gravitate towards them.
Mm-hmm. It's weird how that works. I'm wondering if it's because of the energy.
Maybe.
It's pretty cool, though.
That's a good I never thought of that, but it could be. Because I have no energy. I'm old.
Amen.
I hear you.
My number doesn't say I'm really old, but I tell you, some days I feel it. And you just laugh because you probably feel the same way some days.
Oh, yes.
Oh, absolutely.
My next question is, what made you decide to start your own investigation team?
Well, that one, we were part of a team in the past, and I don't want to get into it. Paradrama's no fun.
I agree. We can leave that out.
Okay, but we just had a disagreement, and they went our way, and we went ours. We're not technically a group out here in Eureka. We're a team per se. We're more of just a gathering of people that enjoy the same thing, which is a team for most people.
But we leave it open. If there's anybody that comes passing through that wants to, if it's available, I shouldn't say that's all the time because some of these buildings aren't available all the time. But if it's available, we'd love to show them around, and we want to keep that open. So we have a group of people that together, and we've been doing great. But hey, we're always welcoming people to join us if they want as well.
That's fabulous. I may have to sneak out there sometime.
Oh, absolutely.
I just might have to take a trip to Vegas and then drive there and check you guys out too.
Yeah, it's a 5-hour drive from Vegas.
Oh, is it really?
Yeah.
Yeah, half a day.
Yeah, not too bad.
And then after us, you'll have to hit Austin, and you can go over to Goldfield after that.
Or Tonopah.
Yeah, there's towns all over this place with a lot of
Goldfield
history.
Yeah.
I can imagine. Like, there's a lot of stuff that happened out there way back when.
The Wild Wild West.
Oh, yeah. And now I just thought of Will Smith. So.
We'll be okay as long as I don't start singing it.
And I promise I won't dance if you do. So. So where is your dream investigation or investigations if you could go anywhere in the world or any few places in the world? Where would that be?
Well, for me, it's just ancestors, but I have ancestors in Germany that had built a castle. Ooh. And it still stands. And I know it's in our genealogy book. I've looked it up on Google. They do tours in there. I think just that experience to go where I may not have known these people, their blood, through many, 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 many moons ago, but just to see and experience that, I think would be amazing.
That would be an awesome trip, just to go visit your ancestors' castle.
Exactly, exactly. And here in the States, the Stanley would be wonderful. um, to visit just the little mining towns around the country would be really cool, and not just in Nevada, but just there's Arizona, New Mexico, Montana, Idaho. There's just I mean, I'm saying the West Coast because that's just what I'm familiar with, but as I'm having a brain fart on, we were just talking about all these places, and now I'm brain farting.
Make yourself a paranormal bucket list. That's what I've done.
Yeah.
I have it posted on my wall at work.
That's cool.
What about you, Adam? Where would you like to go?
Well, in my heart, I love Eureka. But we're actually headed out to the Goldfield coming up here in a few months. That's a gorgeous hotel, beautiful town.
Oh, I forgot. Yes, that's been on my list since I was probably about 16 years old, traveling back and forth with my mom to from Reno back and forth to Vegas, and it was one of those buildings. It stands out. I at the time I wasn't thinking paranormal. I was thinking I want that building. 16-year-old driving by, going, "Gosh, I could make it out into such a cool place." But I.
So you were drawn to it at a young age, then?
I was drawn to that building at a young age. Never, stopped in Goldfield, looked at it. Never had the chance to go inside, but I'm giddy about it now.
So do you think, how should I say this? Back then you knew it existed. Do you think with all the activity there, you were drawn to it for paranormal reasons or aesthetic reasons, or a combination of both? Like you've heard people say, I was drawn to that house for a reason. Or do you think it had anything to do with the paranormal back then?
That part, I don't know. I mean, I knew it existed, but I don't even think I thought of it back then, though. I just always, it was one of those, when you're driving by, slow down so I can look at it. Let me get a better look at that. But it could have been just in my subconscious without me even realizing it.
The energy just drew you in there. Probably.
Yeah.
That's awesome, though. Oh, I do have a question. I know you guys do your Eureka tours and such. Do you do any private investigations at all of homes or businesses?
Yes, we're always available for anyone who needs us. We have done a couple out here. I'm not going to talk about them.
Oh, that's fine.
I've always thought residential is completely confidential. So,
unless they'd like to talk about it.
Yeah, when we get the residential calls, probably 80% of them aren't really paranormal. But yes, we do them. We're always available for anyone who needs us.
Alrighty, that's great to know. And if I get anyone that needs anything out through there, I'll let you know as well.
Okay.
I actually had someone looking for a team in Wisconsin the other day. So now that I know you, I'll just send them your way if I ever hear of anything.
Okay.
Oh, thank you.
Now, do you charge if you do a private investigation?
Never.
Okay, fabulous. I know I also have several people that will email me for a private investigation and ask what the fees are. And I tell them there's not a fee. And personally, I don't think it's very professional if you charge them when they're asking for your help.
Exactly.
It's completely against what we do.
But there are teams out there that do it.
Yeah. Well.
You said that was growling inside.
Yeah, it is. It is. It just grates on my nerves. I don't know. Sorry.
Oh, you're fine. Vent away.
I've never understood that. I know some people go into the whole, do you charge a cockroach poison people? I've heard that when I was in a battle myself about how people shouldn't charge, but it's not anywhere near the same service that anyone else does for anything. Uh, we're just trying to make them feel comfortable in their own homes, is my opinion.
I agree. I agree. Now we can get into the good stuff now.
Okay.
Not that that wasn't good stuff, but you can promote your town now and everything. And you can tell us how fabulous Eureka is. So, can you tell us about the history and hauntings of Eureka?
Here, I'm gonna give that to you.
Okay. Yeah, Eureka was founded in 1864, and it was actually originally named Nepias, and then they changed it into Eureka. Um,
A little over a week later.
yeah, it didn't take them long to. Well, they found the silver. And so it was the top producer, or second top producer in minerals in Nevada, and the population at that point was actually 10,000 people. Around then, it had brothels, 3 opera houses, breweries, 5 volunteer companies, firefighting companies. It was a pretty big town, and then slowly but surely the mines dropped off, and now we're sitting about 600 people. As far as the haunts here, we're at. Or do you want more history?
Sure, share whatever you'd like to share. I'm just
Okay.
amazed it went from 10,000 people to 600. That's quite a
That was over, that was over 150 years. But
yeah.
In these mining towns, they'll boom up, when the mine's big and pulling stuff out of the ground, and then what happens is mines will shut down, and then they'll dwindle a little bit.
The people go, or the miners will go to the next mine. So a lot of times these little towns just kind of dwindle. But it's a farming community here too. There's plenty of ranches out here, and
we've had 2 large fires, 1879 and 1880. Took out most of the buildings. As far as hauntings go, we got the Jackson House, which is amazing. It was recently featured on Ghost Adventures. In there, you'll run into children. You'll run into all sorts of spirits there. We got the cafe, which also has the underground tunnels in them. A lot of the mining towns had tunnels underneath, whether to get around. And in there, we've caught some apparitions, tons of audio, like full-on facial figure apparitions, all sorts of names, and that's a great place. The Opera House, this one in Virginia City are the only 2 operating opera houses left in Nevada, at least from the 1800s. And it's a gorgeous building. In there, you'll hear rounds of applause on the stage. We'll talk to a gentleman I believe is Joe. Shadow figures, things will be moving around, all sorts of fun stuff in there. Basically anywhere, well, almost, not quite, almost anywhere you go in Eureka, you're bound to get some sort of, at least residual.
That's so interesting. I would love to come out and investigate a place out west.
We'd love to have you. Just let me know when.
Yeah, we were talking about coming to Vegas for a few days. So, not sure when, but we always talk about it.
that's right.
Yeah, I would love to come check some place like Eureka out. Definitely.
We would love to have you. This town is amazing. Sometimes you'll go to some places and kind of get frowns when you tell them what you're doing. at least in
Mhm.
my experience. Everyone knows what we're doing out here. I'm not going to say everyone's supportive, but at least the majority of the town, because they all know it exists. So,
I think that's
And I,
fabulous. You will always have the people that think you're full of it and who are like, "Oh, that doesn't exist." Until it happens to them and then they come to you and they're like, "I need your help."
I love it when they come and share their stories because I think that is so neat when they're like, "Oh, I had this experience," and it's like, that you know, uh, for the majority, they've been, yeah, they can be scary experiences, but I don't think anybody's really had a too bad of an experience. And when they share their stories, it's kind of neat to hear them what they've experienced here.
And I personally like when other people share their stories because you can compare what you've experienced to what they've experienced and maybe it's similar or the same thing, it's happened to them, or maybe something completely different. And the next time you would go to that building or cemetery, you might experience the same thing and it would connect.
Yep, exactly. And that's when the stories, you're like, oh, you know what? You had that experience. I had that experience, and then you're sharing that. So
And
it's neat to have that, communicate with people, or people being open enough to want to talk to you about it.
I agree. I think it's great. I totally agree. Now, I watched Ghost Adventures and I did see you on there, Adam.
Well, thank you.
I was like, wait, I know that guy. I'm supposed to interview him. So,
Yeah.
did you enjoy the guys from Ghost Adventures? I always hear fabulous stories, so I have to ask.
They are a.
They were reserved. They would take pictures with the locals and that, and they were friendly in that. But for the most part, I think they were mainly reserved, and they came to do a job, and that's what they came to do.
I've heard
Yeah.
they're open to meeting people. I've heard that.
Yeah.
And I'm sure they have a mindset of I want to get this done. I need you know how we are when we go into an investigation, or at
Yeah.
least my team and I are,
You're
is that we're
focused.
there.
You're there to do a job.
Yep, exactly. Exactly. So, um, I know you had mentioned in our communication and our messages that you mainly concentrate on Highway 50.
Mhm.
Well, I'm in Indiana, so I have no idea where Highway 50 runs and what the legends are. If you'd like to share that with me and everyone else, please feel
Yeah.
free.
Sure. Highway 50 actually starts way out in Sacramento, California. And in the end, it ends up in Ocean City, Maryland, or Maryland. We don't quite go that far. we, we're only on pretty much the Nevada side. Um, in Nevada, they named it the loneliest road
In America.
in America. It was actually done by
Life magazine.
Life magazine, and it was kind of to pick on Nevada because that road there's not much on it. So Nevada just kind of picked it up and ran with it. And if you ever drive on Highway 50, there's at least on the Nevada side probably 5 towns. um, so if you hit from, let's see, I guess you could start from Reno and then you end up,
Carson.
oh yeah, maybe you start from Carson and then you'd run into, help me here.
Carson and Dayton. Then it would go into Fallon, and from Fallon, then you have Middlegate, Cold
We're missing
Springs,
one.
and missing one. Austin. I hadn't even got to Austin yet.
Hazen.
Oh, Hazen. Oh, yeah, that's right.
Well, Hazen is there. It's actually where the last lynching has occurred. We haven't had the opportunity to, well, in Nevada, we haven't had the opportunity to investigate it. We're working on going out to McGill, which is after Eureka, and Austin's amazing. They actually have a castle that's
Stokes
standing there.
Castle.
It's called Stokes Castle, and it was built to be a rich guy's second home, and then he just kind of left it. So it's just been sitting there. So,
You guys
so
should buy it, and then you can investigate your own castle.
that would be awesome. We're still working on it. A whole bunch of squatters were camping out in it, and they caught it on fire. So they don't let people beyond the gates. But there's Pony Express basically ran the entire way of Highway 50. So, where they would distribute mail.
Mm-hmm.
So anywhere you stop along there, we've stopped just out of nowhere with our little spirit box, and we'd get some sort of activity. It's a pretty cool road. It's worth a trip.
You actually answered the question I was going to ask. I know around here we have the Lincoln Highway that Abraham Lincoln he would travel. I was wondering if Highway 50 was one of the old Western routes. So you answered that question for me.
Oh,
I can
yeah.
only imagine some of the things that the Pony Express encountered out there.
Oh, I don't think I could handle that job.
I couldn't either. I really couldn't back then. It was scary. I couldn't imagine having to watch out for bank robbers and trying to deliver everything and get there on time. I'm sure you get a lot of great EVPs. It'd be really interesting to do an investigation there and to see what you come up with.
And there's places you can pull over and stop all the way down 50. They actually have, what is that website? TravelNevada.com.
Or only in Nevada. Oh, there's two. The onlynevada.com and then the Travel Nevada.
Yeah, if you go to TravelNevada.com, it actually has each stop on Highway 50.
I'll have to check that out.
It's a cool site, and it has a little description of each history. And I get scatterbrained. I'm sorry.
Oh, you're fine. Yeah, I will definitely have to check that out. Sounds very interesting.
It's a pretty drive. There is a lot of mountains and a lot of sagebrush, but depending on what time of day you go, and like right now there's snow on the mountains, so when the clouds and the sun hit it just right, it is just gorgeous.
Wow. My uncle lives in Arizona, and it's amazing to see some of the pictures that he sends. So kind of have an idea of the mountains and the snow, but then there's desert.
Yep, exactly. And people that aren't from Nevada and that think Vegas and Reno with the big lights and that. And there's so much more to Nevada than just gambling and, shows. There is just so much to explore in this little state of ours.
Yeah, I've been to Vegas, and we actually went to the Hoover Dam, so we drove from Vegas there. Mm-hmm. And the drive was amazing. And then what is the place that they have the Alien Inn at? I don't remember.
That's Rachel, Nevada. Rachel, Nevada.
Okay.
And that's another thing that I wanted to do.
Yeah, we drove through there, and I actually have a picture that has Alien Adoption Center on it. And our tour guide said, do not get out of the car because they would chase you.
Oh, that's so crazy. Yeah. And then the name of the highway is the Extraterrestrial Highway. I think that's they did that they actually named it that.
I do too. There's absolutely a lot more than Vegas and Reno to see out there. Yeah. And if you get out and explore, it's amazing what you find.
And we got the best, the best guys. You can, even from here in Eureka, our front yard, you can see the Milky Way. And I was thinking about that driving home from Reno last night. My my kids and I were in Reno for the weekend, and it just, it never ceases to amaze me. The sky, just the openness, and the fact that you can just see so many stars, and it's it's actually, it's kind of scary at times, but it's a very beautiful, beautiful drive and scare at the same time.
I
Only
can
because I've
imagine.
spooked myself out on the side of the road before.
I can imagine because if you're, like you said, Route 50 is the loneliest highway in the, they said the country or the world?
In the country.
In America, yeah.
In America.
I can imagine. And if you're out at the desert, in the middle of the desert driving along, I've heard stories. I've heard a lot of stories and a lot of different encounters out in the deserts. And it's not just ghosts.
No, it's not. My kids and I, we were actually traveling to Eureka, and we were probably about an hour away from Fallon, just really smack dab of the middle of nowhere, and we started seeing these lights. I still don't to this day know what the heck these lights were, but they were bouncing around from mountain to mountain, and they were purple and green and orange. And there would be five lights on one side, then they disappear and they'd be on the other side. And it was, we were sitting, I'm driving when this is taking place, and my one of my boys was trying to take a video, and he was just too excited, so everything was shaking around. But it was one of those, like, what in the world did we just see? Because and I've driven that back and forth plenty of times, looking for towers, looking for anything on those mountains that would explain why we saw those lights. But I still cannot figure out what we saw or what it was. But it was one of those experiences. It was so cool. Cannot believe you saw it. But it was like, what did we just see?
You know,
now I want to know more.
I would too, because that's becoming more prominent. There's a lot more stories coming out about those colored orbs, or so-called orbs or lights. And I just actually, it was a couple of weeks ago, I was listening during the day. I work, and I just put my earbuds in and listen to different paranormal stories, or Sasquatch Chronicles, or Dogman Encounters, and things like that. And there was a lady that was talking about being at a lake, and she saw those coming down the mountain, and she went home and got her husband, and he saw them as well. So it's becoming more prominent.
Yeah, it was definitely strange, and something that I can't explain. And even now, like last night driving home, it was dark, and we're like, all right, keep an eye out for our lights, see if they come visit us again. It's always on our mind now.
Now, do you believe it could have been anything to do with UFOs?
Honestly, I don't know. That was obviously our first thought, but I know that it's one of those, you try to rationalize it. And then to the point where when you cannot make sense of what you saw, you're like, well, was it something, out of this world that we saw? I don't know. I want to think that maybe, but sometimes I think, well, why would they want to come and see us?
Hey, you do have Area 51 out there, and Roswell was close.
Yep, it's very, and there could be some sort of connection, but it's definitely one experience that I will never forget, and my kids won't forget, because they're always on the lookout now, looking to those skies, like, what are we going to see tonight?
And as I said, it's kind of out in the middle of nowhere.
Yep.
I think my fear would be a UFO would come down and take me.
See, I do that because a lot of times I've got to travel back and forth to Reno on my own. And I was telling my son last night while the others were sleeping in the back of the car, I always think of either something like that, or I think Bigfoot, or some mystical creature is going to just, walk out in front of the road at me. And I think the more quiet and dark a location is like that, the more that it kind of makes you think about that. Like, is it possible that? But I always I think that something is going to come out and cross the road at me, or I'm going to see it on the side of the road as I'm driving by, going, "What the heck was that?"
Always have your camera ready.
Yep, always got the phone nearby just in case.
I do too. Now, I know when I was out there, we went to an Indian reservation over by the Grand Canyon. Now, does Highway 50 run through, or the road to Reno that you take, does it run through any Native American grounds?
We do have the petroglyphs up on Highway 50, and that's between Eureka and Austin. There is, oh my gosh.
Right after Eureka.
Right after Eureka, there is,
what is that called?
I'm
I don't
drawing.
remember what the reservoir. Yes, Eureka, right after Eureka. It's very close. I don't have enough information about it to talk, but I know it's very close.
There's a couple of them though, I thought. And
the reason I ask is because you had mentioned you thought something may run out in front of you. Stories that I hear are that around the Indian reservations, there are skinwalkers. And that's why I said another reason I wouldn't want to drive alone is because of skinwalkers.
Yeah, that I didn't even think about that.
Sorry.
That's a see now.
Sorry. I feel bad now. And you had mentioned Bigfoot, Sasquatch as well.
That's all you got.
Well, I think we all kind of grew up with the Bigfoot stories. It's over in Washington and the Oregon coast and the California coastline, Northern California coastline. You've got the redwood forest, and they kind of nicknamed that the Bigfoot capital, so to speak. There's been sightings off of Peavine up in Reno. There's been sightings in Elko. To me, it's definitely not out of the question. My son and I actually had a conversation last night that what if we accidentally run one over? Or accidentally, how would we handle it? And we agreed that we don't think except we wouldn't want to hurt something. And at the same time, we almost wouldn't want it to be found because I don't want to disturb them. If they exist, I want to leave them be. We all want to know they exist, but at the same time, I wouldn't want science to infringe on their lives, I guess. I think if they actually found proof, would it make more people go hunting them? And I guess that's the soft animal lover side of me where I don't want them to be hurt.
They actually
silly.
Oh, you're fine because that's understandable. I can tell you that Ohio has a large Bigfoot population, not Bigfoot,
Yes.
but Sasquatch.
Yeah.
They have a very large, and they're in southern Indiana. They have some as well. And I agree that if people found out they exist, they would probably go out and hunt them. And there are folks who actually go out, hunt them to show that they exist. But then you have the government groups that come in and clean it up and will take your phones if you tell them there are photos on there.
Yeah.
So it's a
I think it's one of those. And who knows, and oh, sorry.
I know. I personally investigate dogmen as well.
Yeah.
And I really haven't heard of any of those out in Nevada.
Yep. No, nor have I.
But I have heard of the Sasquatch out there. And I wanted to ask you, you said they have seen Sasquatch in Reno?
There was a sighting on Peavine. This was back, I want to say, the late 70s, early 80s. And I am drawing a blank. The gentleman's name was on the tip of my tongue, and I just lost it. I believe he wrote an article or a book about his experience. And for the life of me, I'm going to have to Google while we're
I'm Googling right now.
to the Google cave.
I'm actually looking it up. I was like, I have to see this so I can ask more questions. I think that's so interesting because most people think that Sasquatch are out in the middle of nowhere. And they have been seen in towns. And I was just listening to the Bigfoot Outlaws, Kumbo and Matt, this week actually. And what is today? Monday, last week. And they have seen them in Chicago, downtown Chicago, and the suburbs of Chicago. And they have seen them on Staten Island in New York and Long Island or Manhattan, one or the other. And they're just all over the place. So I'm not a bit surprised that they're right there in Reno.
Yeah, there's a lot of mountains around Reno. So this was above Reno on the kind of North Valley side. I want to closer to it. It's called Dog Valley, but I think I'm trying to remember because I've read the whole thing on it and I can't even. Oh, the gentleman's name is gonna just drive me crazy. I'll remember. It'll be like 3:00 in the morning, and I'll sit up and go, that's his name.
And you'll send me a message.
But yeah, I've always kind of wanted to not really look for them, but hoping for an experience. Seeing if it happens naturally without me going, full on investigation mode.
And that's how mine happened. It was October 11th last year, and it just walked across the road in front of me.
Yeah,
and I thought,
but I keep thinking that's going to happen.
And I'm in the middle of cornfields and bean fields. And I thought, why is that guy wearing a white hat? And then it hit me. The rest of him was covered in fur that was like rust colored. And he went in the cornfield. And of course, without thinking, I stopped in the middle of the road and looked. And I'm glad I didn't get rear-ended because it was just below a hill.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, it can happen. It just casually walked across the road. And I was like, really?
Did I just see that?
That's the best way. You're safely in your car and just have it walk.
See, exactly. That's how I think I'd like to experience it. Safely from my vehicle.
And then you can go ahead and drive away.
Yep. I'll leave you be, you leave me be.
Exactly. Now, I know you guys are going to have your second annual Eureka Paracon in June. And I know, Adam, you have talked to me and told me that the money from the conference goes to helping the town. Is that correct?
Yes, it is.
Can you explain to our audience what this means? Is all donated or just a portion?
All of it goes to the town. What we do is pretty much it goes to the cemeteries. The county cemetery has, well, it's from the 1800s, but it needs a lot of help. Last year we got the majority done on the new side as far as weeds cleared, all that good stuff.
Beautiful new gate.
Oh yeah, we got a gorgeous gate now.
Yeah, an anonymous donor donated a gate to put up for the cemetery.
It's gorgeous. There's Civil War veterans in there. And it needed a lot of help. So sometimes in governments, money just doesn't get set aside for cemeteries like that. So we just kind of assisted, and the money that came from the Paracon went to the county, and they helped to go to the cemetery. This year we're doing something really cool because yes, the money goes to the county, but actually doing something helps even more. So we actually have a raffle going on, so that on Saturday you come volunteer, pull weeds, rake a little bit for 3 hours, and then all of our speakers have offered raffle prizes, paranormal equipment, tickets to the Montana Paracon, the Prison Paracon, books, investigations, all sorts of good stuff.
And we're having a barbecue afterwards, where we'll be doing the drawing for those raffle prizes after we do the cleanup.
So the money goes to them as well as we all volunteer. I guess it's bribery. Get the people that come to help pull weeds.
That's great. I like that you guys are donating that and helping out the town. There really is a lot of history there. It really is. Now, can you tell us what type of speakers you'll have? Is it all ghost hunters, or will you have cryptid investigators as well?
The majority are ghost hunters. We did just have one kind of pop out of nowhere that looks into UFOs. But we have Elaine Davidson Meredith. She has a really cool topic. She basically goes over the dangers in paranormal investigations, some of the diseases that can be caught from the dust, and other health issues that can come from investigating. We have Janice Oberding. She's investigated all over the place. She's a paranormal author. Marie and Jay Yates are coming out. Jeff Adkins, Todd Bonner, Ross Allison. We also have, we
gotta go through our notes.
We also have Dave Miller, and then we just found out that Steve Pierce would like to be coming out. And he was actually, I don't know enough about UFO stuff to know exactly what he did, but he was in the movie in 1993. And whoever hears his name will probably know him. Or if they know UFO stuff. Let's see here. Steve.
Now,
he was in Fire in the Sky.
I guess there was a movie.
Oh, I remember that movie.
Yeah.
And he was the youngest I guess the youngest person in that actually experienced it, because it was based on a true story. So it'll be interesting to hear. I'm excited to have him out.
Yeah.
And will you be having any kind of workshops and classes, or will it just be presentations?
Pretty much they're just the speaker conference. They investigate with us, so you get to investigate with all the speakers. But otherwise, we have the meet and greet on Thursday. Just kind of get to meet everybody that's coming. We got a lot of cool people coming. and get to know them, hang out. And then Friday, we have the speaker conference where you get to listen to everybody, investigate afterwards. And then Saturday is the cemetery cleanup, the barbecue, and then a whole bunch more investigations. And then Sunday, we just kind of let people run wild in the town.
Now, will you have vendors there? Like I go to conferences and sometimes paranormal events here, and we just have our tables. And a friend of mine actually goes and sets up, she's a vendor. She sells steampunk items, and then she has pendulums and necklaces and things like that. Will you have vendors?
Yes, we have every book novelists. We have equipment vendors. Dave Miller will be talking about his apps, kind of, explaining those through. Whole bunch of history books. We have a couple vendors coming from the town, just the local businesses. So I think we have 12 vendors coming now.
That's a nice size. And if someone would like to be a vendor, how would they contact you about that?
Just my cell phone. You can give me a call. It's 775-443-2628. We don't charge for vendor spaces, but we do ask for a raffle prize to go towards our cemetery raffle.
And how do you get tickets to attend the conference? And how much are they?
They're $100 and it includes everything. And you can go to EurekaParanormal.com.
Fabulous. And I would like to have you guys on. We had talked about that the Wednesday before the conference, just to kind of promote that more. And by then, you have went to the Goldfield Hotel, correct?
Yes, ma'am. Well, yes, the Wednesday before. Yes. We will. Uh-huh.
I would love to have you guys back on and hear about what you experienced there and your investigations since we've talked tonight. Okay. And then I'm sure you'll have a few more vendors or speakers by then. So you can go ahead and tell us about those too.
We would love that.
The Goldfield, this is almost 25 years in the making for me to finally get into this building. So I am a very happy girl.
I can imagine. And I look forward to hearing about your experiences, and I really hope it's everything you want it to be, because I really do, and I hope you get a lot of evidence, and then you can share that with us too.
Sure.
We'd love to.
Now, these are just kind of general questions. Is there first I would like to ask if you'd like to tell anything else about the conference that I haven't asked.
You want to say when it is? Did you say that?
it is June 21st through the 24th. That's probably a good one to go over. The money is going to the cemeteries. It's a heck of a lot of fun. And forewarning, this town is addictive. So if you come here, you may want to stay.
Or like us, we moved here.
Oh, did you? Where'd you live at before?
Reno. We both grew up in Reno, and traveling here and doing investigations here, we fell in love with the town, and I'm watching my kids thrive, and
we get to investigate every night if we want.
That, yes, but it's a sweet town, and it's nice giving the kids an education to where they're not just a number. They're not just 30 plus kids in a classroom. There's, it's a small town, so they've got small classrooms, and it's nice giving them something different than a big city. So I've thought about wanting to live in a small town for a long time. So to be actually able to do it and bring the kids along to experience it, it's been really good.
Now, you say it's a small town. The population is 600.
Yeah, this is kind of about 600. Yeah.
a curious question. How far do you have to drive to work? Since it's kind
Less
of
than a
out.
minute.
I'm sorry.
Less than a minute. It's about a 30-second drive.
Well, I didn't know, like, I have to drive half an hour. I live in a small town too, and it's in the middle of the country, so I drive 20 minutes to half an hour to get to work.
Some people out in the valley have to do that. We're lucky we got in town, and we're right below the cemeteries. And
yeah, the cemeteries are our neighbors.
About 2 blocks away from downtown. So.
Yeah. It's like the town is just a little bit lower, and we're on a hill just a little bit above where the town, you know, like downtown is, the main street. So it's easily maybe a 10-minute walk, but in the car, yeah, 30 seconds to a minute, and we're there.
That's awesome. And speaking of cemeteries, sometimes it's easier have to deal with the dead than the living.
Exactly.
And that's the truth. And I'm not the only one to say this.
It's true.
We've gotten some funny looks from family members and that going, you live next to a cemetery? It's like, yeah, it's in our backyard. Literally, it's our yard, and then there's the Catholic cemetery on one side and the Masonic cemetery on the other.
Now, do you ever have any activity in your house that you think comes from the cemetery?
We're still trying to figure that out. Sometimes I hear conversations outside all the time in the middle of the night. You know, I sometimes get up in the middle of the night, or if you can't sleep, and I unfortunately smoke. Bad habit. And I go outside to smoke, and I'll be standing outside on our porch, and I'm hearing like literal conversations, but there's nobody there. And so
Jilly's seen cowboy.
Jillian, my daughter, has seen a cowboy figure. A friend of ours said that they heard like a little girl giggling in our driveway. So it's very possible. It's still one of those moments where you're like, okay, do I want to get in full investigation mode, or do I want to just leave it be because this is my home?
we know they're here at our house, and we're polite, and no need to investigate and pester. Yeah. We both know that they're here, and at least in our home.
Yeah, tell them hi, and we're good to you if you're good to us.
I agree, and I'm the same way. I know they're here, but do I really, really want to investigate and talk to them? It's different when it's your own house.
Yep, exactly.
If that makes sense.
It does.
And I have saged and I cleanse it. So I know they stick around, and I know it's an older lady and then a little boy. So yeah.
It's actually nice. Being an investigator, you can know that they're there and not.
Yeah.
It's not be scared, not run. It's just they're there. They're friends.
Yeah. My little one calls it monsters. He says, "I see the monster."
See, that's how I was when I was little with my little spray. It was they were monsters, and because that's, I guess, being that little, that's what you think of. But yeah.
Yeah, I agree. And he will not go up the stairs by himself, and it's kind of funny. He's like, "The monster's up there." You keep thinking that, because I don't want you to go upstairs by yourself.
That's a good way to do it.
Oh, just like, keep thinking that. So now we kind of hit on Bigfoot earlier. And we hit on the UFOs. Have you ever seen anything like black-eyed children? And we hit on the skinwalkers as well.
I have never experienced it. I used to read lots of stories on them. And I've watched a few shows. I personally have never experienced the black-eyed children. it's one of those, how, yeah, it's, I don't know if I want to. I don't know if I want to. That's, if I do, I don't know how I'd even react, quite honestly.
I don't either.
And all I know is you don't let them in.
I hear that.
Don't let them in. But yeah, no, I have not experienced a black-eyed child, but I do read about it. Um, so they're, and again, it's one of those situations that the stories that I read about, it's always you're alone. They're knocking on the door, or you're in your vehicle, or you're in an area that it always seems to happen when you are alone. Those things that I've read about, but yeah, I don't think I care to. Hopefully,
Me, me neither. That's one thing I don't want to experience. And they seem, from what I've read, they're pretty negative.
yep, exactly. And my thing too is, especially being a mom and you see young kids, and it's like it I don't I don't think I need that maternal pull of wanting to, the mommy instinct to overrun what might be a safety concern.
I
So
agree.
yeah, I don't think I'd ever want to deal with one of those. Hopefully I'd know what to do if I do experience it. Just I know not to let them in.
And just keep driving.
Yep.
Just like the Sasquatch. Just keep driving.
Driving.
Now, I have been getting emails requesting private investigations. And a few of those have been, I actually had a lady that says this negative energy has moved with her. And then I got one today. Have you guys been getting more negative? How do I want to say it? Not demonic. Well, yeah, maybe. Getting emails or anything from possible clients that they're having a lot of negative energy in their homes or experiencing something demonic. Do you feel that coming around a lot lately? Are you guys there? Hello? It seems that we have lost them. They're going to try to log back in. We will go to standby until they come back.
Hello?
Hello.
Hello? Ah, there
Hey,
you are.
you're back. See, I did not lie. I have issues and get kicked off all the time on Wednesdays.
Sorry, I don't know what happened. You were there and then you were gone.
And I'm like, hello? Hello? I was talking to myself for a minute.
So I apologize. Where were we?
You're fine. We had talked about black-eyed children, and I was saying that I have been getting more recent emails of are you there?
Yes.
Okay. Of the more malevolent and negative energy in homes lately. Have you guys been getting anything like that?
My honest opinion on that, yes, we have, or at least messages about it. The hard part about that is my opinion is since I love our TV shows, but they tend to go immediately to the dark side. Not Star Wars, but they kind of push that direction. So I think what's actually happening, as opposed to it being more evil, dark, demonic phone calls, is people notice activity and they see what's on TV, which I haven't seen one, at least lately, that talks about the kids or the friendly guys. It's so I think the people's mind tend to immediately draw to the dark, when in all reality, if there's a spirit there, it's just not negative per se, just playing around. That's my opinion on it. There are a lot more calls and that kind of thing that say it's negative, but in my experience, it has not been when we arrived.
And you took the words right out of my mouth. That was my next question to you, is if you think the TV shows are influencing that, because they tend, and I've said this on other shows before with other guests, and they've typically agreed that the scary stuff sells more. So people, instead of, like you said, the nice Casper the Friendly Ghost, compared to something mean and evil, which would you rather watch? People like to be scared.
Yeah.
And I agree 110% with what you just said. And I always tell people, don't go from 0 to 10. Take your steps, start at 0, let us investigate. Who knows? It may be somebody that's mad. It may be a grumpy old man that was old and crotchety when he was alive. You don't know. You may be living in his house and he just doesn't like it. So don't go from 0 to 10 before you actually know.
Amen.
And I've been saying that for years.
I got to give kudos, though, to the one new show, Amy and Adam's new show, Kindred Spirits. As far as at least what I have seen on that show, is they focus mainly trying not to have it be scary for the homeowners and the families, and even having the kids on the show and that. And I totally, that's one of the reasons why I like watching that show, is because they don't go after saying that it's dark and that they try to prove otherwise.
And I haven't heard of that show, but I don't have cable right now.
It's a smart decision.
I thought about getting it, and then I was like, yeah, $70 is a month a lot to watch TV. I'll just stick with Netflix or Hulu, and eventually it'll be on there.
Yep.
So, we just talked about paranormal shows, and you just told me about your favorite. Are there any other shows that you guys really like to watch? I know people are big fans of Ghost Adventures.
Ghost Hunters, I think, I know there was a couple others kind of in the same area or the same time frame. I enjoyed watching the Haunted Towns because I guess I'm partial to those little haunted towns around our country. I think that would be the ultimate goal, is to have a haunted road trip around the country. But I've enjoyed that show and kind of learning some of the history, some of these other small towns around the country. Mainly, though, I don't think we watched a whole lot of paranormal shows. I do. I do like. I don't know if you've heard of the channel, the Destination America, and they have the mysteries and what is it?
Monsters and Mysteries.
Mysteries in America. Thank you. And I love watching that show. I love those stories. I love the different legends and myths, and hearing about the Jersey Devil in New Jersey and the different species of Bigfoots and the local legends. And I love those stories, and I love hearing about them, and I love hearing about the different haunts around our country and that. So, it's watching some of the shows. It's like, it makes you want to go. It makes you want to go and explore some of those areas. So I think that sometimes we watch the shows for that. Just be like, oh, that would be a great trip to take.
I agree. And I think it's great to promote the haunted places like that. Not only does it promote the haunted locations, but it brings in revenue for the town itself.
Exactly. And it kind of, like the experience with Ghost Adventures here in Eureka, it put it on the map. We're shedding light to a little town to bring. It's a different kind of tourism, but it's tourism nonetheless. You're bringing people into these communities that want to explore and learn about them, and they see it on TV, and then they get to experience it in life, and they're like, yeah, this really is a cool place.
I agree with you.
Our dogs are growling in the background at each other.
I bet there's somebody talking outside your house.
So what are they doing in there?
But I agree. I really do. I think a lot of these places need to open up, and that are struggling, the smaller towns that have history, and embrace that it may be haunted and have paranormal activity. And that would bring revenue in and revive the town somewhat.
Yeah. Because they shop at they get gas at the gas station. They're eating in the restaurants. They're shopping in the shops. They're checking out the museums and that's brings people in. And then next thing you know, you got somebody that said, hey, I was recommended to come here by this person, and it becomes a great word of mouth topic to come and visit. And it's okay, dogs, chill.
And like the hotel there in Eureka, do they rent rooms out there?
The Jackson House, they do, yes. And we also have there's the Jackson House has 8 rooms. I'm counting in my head as I say it.
And that's perfect too, because that's bringing revenue into the hotel, into the town, and people like to stay at haunted locations overnight.
Well, the Jackson House. Oh, sorry. The Jackson House rents out rooms as well as also rents out for investigations. There's also the Eureka Cafe or the Eureka Hotel, and they have 5 rooms. 1, 2, and that's rented out to teams so that they can investigate the tunnels and the cafe as well. So this town's tremendously supportive of the paranormal. It's pretty crazy.
I think that's just great. And
we've some really neat people along the way and that have come to visit and check out our town, and it's been a neat experience kind of being a tour guide in the sense, but also, I don't, when I talk about Eureka, sometimes I don't always want to like give away too much information because I want to see if they find it on their own or see what they come up with before I, talk about some things, to see if we can kind of compare notes a little bit after.
And that's the way we actually enter an investigation. We don't really want to know background or anything that happens. That way we can come to you and compare notes as to what you've had and be like, oh, we did get that one right.
Yep.
I agree. But I think what you guys are doing is great. Is absolutely fabulous.
Thank you.
Oh, you're very welcome. Now, will you be attending, other than your own conference this year, will you be going to any para fairs, meet and greets, or any other conferences?
We had planned. They just, unfortunately, the Utah Eureka. We had been trying to go out to theirs to kind of network back and forth. There's a Eureka Utah, and they were having one. Otherwise, we'll be planning on going to the BC one. It's a pretty cool convention out there.
I'd like to go to some areas. I guess it's also going to play a part with the family time and how spontaneous that we can actually end up being when the weather's good, of getting in the car and just going.
Yeah, I agree.
We're to take a couple of spontaneous trips and kind of see where it takes us this summer.
Yeah, we have some free ones here in Indiana and Ohio, and we might hit those. So I was just wondering if you guys go to anything like that as well, kind of promote the town, have a little table there.
We well, not as a vendor. We were going to do that out in Eureka, Utah, and we might do that in BC, but we also like to go out to the Goldfield Days. Mm-hmm. They do the school and the Banner Bank building out there. Good group runs it.
Yeah, that's on my bucket list. I'll make it there one day, and then I can come back and compare notes with you.
That's right.
Sounds good.
Now, are you looking for anyone to join your team? Is it always open? Do you do membership drives? Do you do interviews?
Well, since we're structured a little bit oddly, as far as our core group, we'll always talk to somebody if they'd like to learn. But as far as the core group, we're kind of set. What we're doing when we said we're open to everybody, we have a Eureka Paranormal Club. And what that does is it includes a bi-monthly investigation. You get 10% off at all the businesses in town. Not all the businesses, but several businesses
that are included in the club.
And then discounted hotel rates. But with that one, we'll investigate different places. But as far as our core team, if you want, you're welcome to call and we'll talk it over. But we're just about set as far as like who we take to residentials and that kind of thing.
Yeah, that's what I was wondering. So,
well, you have to keep that kind of small, in my opinion, because confidentiality is huge. And when you get into the bigger teams, 9, 10 more people like that, it's hard to keep things confidential. It's hard to, there's 6 of us that are in our structure.
As of right now, there's just 2 of us that will go on private investigations because I want you trained before you go into a residence myself. And I agree with the confidentiality. And I've actually had people say, do you want us to leave when you investigate? No.
Nope.
No. Because you live there. My main thing is I wouldn't want someone I don't know coming into my house and me leaving. Mm-hmm. I don't know what this person's going to do, but I'm not saying I would do anything. but I ask that they stay. And then a second part is that you're there all the time. And when we investigate, they would probably communicate easier with the homeowner or the tenant than they would with someone from the outside.
Yep.
Familiarity. Because I mean, they're just people. That's my opinion. That the majority of what you will ever come across is just people.
I believe they're the same way when they cross as they were when they were alive. Like I said, like that old grumpy old crotchety man, he's going to be the same way when he dies and passes over, just like he was here on Earth.
Yep.
We know one of those.
I think that's probably what I'll be when I cross over. Grumpy. Kind of grumpy now, so I'll probably be the same way when I go. You sitting there doing an EVP session, I'll be like, I told you I'd come back.
We'll be very excited. Class A.
Like, yeah, I'm here. Can you hear me?
I already told you my name.
And what year it is and what year I died. I mean, come on now. What else do you want? Yes, it's cold over here. No, I never sleep.
Yes, we see color.
Oh, those would be awesome EVPs, wouldn't they?
I'm down. Put me on the list. We'll come investigate you.
Oh, well, do you guys have any questions for me or anything else you'd like to tell the audience before we go for the evening?
Thanks for putting up with us boring you.
Being nervous and getting tongue-tied and stuttering a little bit along the way.
Hey, it happens to the best of us. I do.
But no, we really appreciate it. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would definitely like to have you back in June.
Okay.
And that way you can tell us about what you've been doing since then, and you can promote your paranormal conference more.
Okay. Yeah, that sounds like a lot of fun. We would love that.
All righty. If you want to hang out a second, I'm going to just go for the end of the evening and play our outbound music.
Sounds good.
All right. Hang out for just a second. And I would like to say thank you for everyone that listened tonight. I will be back this Wednesday evening at 9:00 with Liz Brownbridge. She is with Michiana Paranormal right here close to me in Mishawaka. So, and I know she has great stories that you guys will want to hear. So have a good evening, and thank you, Adam and Sonia, again for coming on.
It was a pleasure.
Have a nice